Got an eye. Mr. Elon, could you remind members of the public and board members to silence their telephones and so we can continue the meeting?
Yes, sir. If the members of the public, if y'all can please silence y'all's cell phones so we don't have any interruptions during the meeting, that would be much appreciated. And then board members to remember, please move the microphone as close as possible so you can be heard on the live feed.
Thank you very much. Can you present your superintendent report, Dr. Elon?
Yes, sir. So it's gonna be a little longer than usual, and that's gonna be a good thing. And I'll try to get through some stuff relatively quickly. But I'd first like to draw your attention to our favorite subject, and that's COVID-19. We have in your packet a set of documents. I had already emailed this to y'all or texted it to you. I'm not sure which. And it's some data. It's some data on the COVID-19 numbers for the state of Louisiana, divvied up by parish, and it's week by week. First off, I want to draw your attention to the fact that if you do a comparison based on Region 7, which is our 7 local, or I think it's about 7 local parishes, DeSoto, Caddo, etc., we are doing very well in comparison to them in our total numbers, whether it be by students and staff. But then also what I want to bring to your attention is if you look at the comparison and you compare us to all 64 parishes, we are doing relatively well as well. The other thing I want to bring up with this data is this is produced by LDH. Many of you are familiar with the red cap system that we've been talking about, that the principals put in positive and symptomatic cases. That information is being fed to LDH. LDH is now putting that on their website, and they are updating it weekly. We have linked that website or that page on LDH's website to our website. So anyone in the parish, any constituent, any person outside the parish can at any point go to our website, go to the Strong Start link, and then underneath there is COVID-19. Go to that link, and if you scroll to the bottom, there will be, I believe it's under COVID numbers. If you click that link, you can go to the week, any week that's already transpired or a week that we're in, and as soon as the data is available, you will be able to see the COVID numbers by parish, and you will be able to say, okay, well this past week, Natchitoches Parish had this many COVID cases. Again, this is another effort to have transparency. The only thing I would caution everyone with is that it may lag behind at times, because sometimes you'll have a principal who will be made aware of a case, like it's Thanksgiving break. You may know of someone who had a positive test during Thanksgiving break. Well, the principal may have just been informed about that, and so they put it in the system. So you might see some lag in numbers, but that's nothing to be concerned about. It's just a matter of having to put it in the system and then it be reflected by LDH. We are excited that we've, as you've all been told, that the vaccines are coming. We also want to be very realistic that in the parish right now that we are up, and we don't mean the school district, we mean the parish as a whole. We're up 39.8% to a positivity rate of 14.4%. So that's not great news, but it's in line with what we're all experiencing nationwide and statewide. So in response to that, we did not want to just rest on our laurels. We thought that necessitated a stronger response. So what we've done is we have, if you entered in through the front door, you saw that we have finally received our larger levels of PPE. So for schools that have a quarantine, or for custodians who need to have a cleaning, we have now all the PPE that you would virtually find in a hospital as well. So we have the gowns, we have the masks, the shields, the covers of the hair, the covers of the shoes, the gloves, etc., the whole 9 yards. We also purchased some very high-level foggers, and what these are is whenever we have a quarantine, every school, some of them purchased them initially, but we have now purchased extra ones so that now every school has access to get those foggers and go into any room that's had a positive case or an exposure, and they can fog that room with a very effective disinfectant, but also one that's chemically safe for the kids and for the staff. As you know, over the break, the governor moved us into a modified phase 2, and he basically called it a modified phase 2. Some people have called it 2.5. But he did allow in section 4 of his proclamation to allow us, and by us I mean schools, to stay in a phase 3, and we are staying in that phase 3. Every doctor we've spoken to, every expert we've spoken to has said that the schools are the safest place right now as far as their mitigation efforts, although we do know that we're seeing COVID virtually everywhere. Along with that, LHSAA also put out some new guidelines that everyone needs to be made aware of. They initially put out some very stringent guidelines, and then they walked them back a little bit. But those guidelines are as follows, we will put the full guidelines on the website. But the initial things are 25% attendance to all athletic events, and that does now include your cheerleaders, your dance line, and your band members. So those count as part of your 25%. And then finally, they reiterated the mandatory masking policy. Initially, they were going to fine schools and maybe even cause forfeitures of games if you did not enforce that masking policy. They have walked that back to some degree, but we are very much going to stay with that initial thought, which is masks are mandatory if you're on our campuses. For your protection and for our students' protection, you need to have that. Continuing in COVID news, we are excited that NJH, Goldana, and LP Vaughn are all back in school. So currently we have all of our schools back in session in a face-to-face manner, so that's very exciting. Moving on from COVID-19, I'm excited to share with you a partnership that we have entered into with NSU, specifically with Dr. Kim McAllister. What we're calling this is the basically teacher prep program. As many of you know, we have a large population of our teachers who are struggling to get certified. And the first part of getting certified is to pass that Praxis 1, the Praxis Core as they call it. That's ELA, math, and also writing. Some of our teachers have passed one of the tests, 2 of the tests, and some of our teachers have not even taken it yet just because of different situations. So what we've done is NSU has purchased the diagnostic testing software for that test, and we are bringing in all of our teachers who have not passed or need to pass Praxis 1. They will all be diagnostic tested. This is free of charge. Once they are diagnostic tested, that is phase 1. Phase 2 will be, we will create an individualized program of study specifically for them. So that way the person who's 1 point away from successfully passing the math Praxis will not be in the same program as the person who is not passed any of the portions of the test or has not even attempted to. We will pay them to be in that class. So while they are learning, while they are in those classes with instructors from NSU, they will be paid by the school district as an incentive. Then, if they pass their test, we will then pay for the test. We will pay them back for that test. We will then help them enroll into hopefully the NSU program, the Alternative Cert program, but we will help them enroll in a program. The purpose of this is to get every uncertified teacher enrolled in a program. So just to reiterate, we are giving them a diagnostic test. We are giving them a specific to them prepared curriculum. We are then going to pay them to study. And then if they pass the test, we're going to pay for the test. And then we will help them enroll in a program. This is a win-win-win for these individuals. And we are so excited that Dr. McAllister was just very willing to start this with us. And we think this is one of those multi-pronged approaches to help us address our certification issue. So phase 1 will be done within the first week of, actually it should be done before Christmas break, with a possibility we'll move into the first week of January, and then that second week of January we'll move into phase 2. So very excited there. The second part, outside of COVID, that I wanted to bring your attention to is our strategic plan, which I know has long been talked about. Probably many of you have been waiting to actually see it come to fruition. This is a draft copy, but it's a draft copy that I feel is a very strong draft. A draft in the sense that we want you to look over it. We want you to critique it, to give us feedback. We will also be giving draft copies to the schools and having them share them with their teachers. And we'll also probably be putting a draft on the website so people can also submit any critiques. So I'd like to briefly go through it. It is a 27-page document, but I would like to just quickly go through some highlights of it. The name of our plan is Ready, Set, Grow Natchitoches, NPSB's Plan for Excellence. And then you see over the next few pages pictures of our local folks, no stock images, and then our table of contents, which is obviously what that is. Next is a message from me, which kind of details our need for that, and I'll let you read that if you'd like to. Then our next page is our story, kind of the impetus for this, where we're at, why we're doing this. Then you have our mission statement. This mission statement we have not released it yet, but it is now for release. We created this with our principals and assistant principals over the summer. And I'd like to share that. Through our persistent pursuit of progress, together we can develop college and career-ready students. We are dedicated to the success of all through a robust curriculum and quality instruction that connects students' lives and their futures. It is our pledge to provide a safe, supportive, and nurturing environment in an effort to achieve equity for all. Which moves us to the next page. In our vision, we like short visions that can be remembered, roll off the tongue, and our vision is persistent pursuit of progress. It's short, it's small, but we feel as though it's very powerful in the sense that what we mean by that is every day, every person, whether it's Lee Wascom, Pat Rock, Grant Eloy, board members, students, teachers, etc., are always trying to improve, which we believe that's what education is all about. Our major district goals, these 6 goals are in alignment with the state's goals. They are, number 1, for students to enter kindergarten ready. Number 2, students will achieve mastery level on third grade assessments and enter 4th grade prepared for grade level content. The same is true for number 3 for 8th grade assessments and 9th grade entry. Number 4, students will graduate on time. 5, graduates will graduate with college and or career credentials. 6, graduate eligible for a TOPS reward. And again, those were initially the state goals that we adopted because we want to be in alignment with them. So, then we get into Natchitoches Parish, our framework for success. If you notice, we have 8 areas for our framework, the top of which, most importantly, is our academics. We go nowhere without academics. If you proceed clockwise, it's recruitment and retention of qualified folks. Our 3rd one is early childhood education. Our 4th one is technology. Our 5th one is culture. 6th is community relations. 7th is communication. And 8th is finally business operations. So, if you go in each area, we have areas that have more pinpointed, more granular goals. So, if you notice, we said everyone's going to be on grade level. Well, if you look at goal 1 for academics, and we have multiple goals that are very measurable, and most of these are 5-year goals. Goal number 1, increase assessment index for high school on English 1, 2, Algebra 1, Geometry, Biology, and U.S. History as measured by LEAP 2025 by 17.5 points over the period of 5 years. What we did with that is we looked at what does it take for us to be an A district. Well, right now, we would need to get that to we'd have to improve 17.5 points on our assessment index. So we divide that over 5 years, and then we get our goal from year to year. I'm not going to go over all of these because I think I would bore you with some of them, but just real quick, improve leadership capacity through all leaders, departments, and schools. And you can see we get so granular that it has action steps for each one of those. Hire a director of academics, we did that. Create a culture of reading at every school. Culture of reading We believe that's through implementing something like Accelerated Reader or a similar program, and also ensuring that we have a highly qualified librarian at every school, which we currently do not have. Define what it means to be an effective principal. We've created what we call the NPSB framework for effective principals. It's a very research-based, data-driven document that tells you exactly what it means to be an effective principal. And if principals in this district follow that framework, they're going to be amazing principals, which I think they already are, but it'll be even better. Number 4, provide QDR structure that allows for consistent feedback to principals throughout the school year. That's something I especially want to highlight because the QDR is a fancy way of saying our quarterly data review. Any district that is moving forward is looking at their data on a consistent basis. They're looking at the data saying what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and then they're going back and adjusting their practice based on where the data is. So every 9 weeks we will be pulling principals in to discuss their data with them. The idea is, and we've already populated this data dashboard as we call it, the idea is that they will be made aware of where their data is, so there will never be any surprises. You will know your SPS before, hopefully months, if not a year beforehand. You can predict these things, and then if you can predict it, you can address the areas of need. But not only that, it'll allow principals to populate their teacher data meetings. So if the district is having meetings about data, then that's populating the principal meetings about data, and then that's populating the teacher meetings about data. All in the sense that we are always looking at our data and saying, hey, 4th grade kids they're not on grade level with reading. What are we doing about it? What are our action steps? It's fine to say that we're not reading on grade level. It's fine to say that that's a problem. But what research-based, data-driven strategies are we actually using to address those deficiencies? Or are we just kind of throwing our hands up and saying, it is what it is? And I think a lot of districts would never say they're doing that, but in essence they are. Moving on to the next page, ensures that 75% of K-2 students are on or above grade level in math. There's a similar one on the page prior that says the same thing for reading. That means over every year moving forward, we have to improve our current percentage by 10%. And that's a very lofty goal, but that is a goal that if you can improve numeracy and literacy in the K-2 grade levels, virtually everything is fixed. Now, again, it's easy to say, but what is behind that? Well, we believe that we need to have a math and ELA specialist at every school who's assisting the teachers. Because we have a large group of teachers who, whether it's because they're uncertified or for whatever reason, they struggle. And we have to realize that the only way to help them, or one of the major ways to help them, is to support them through consistent, embedded professional development. And that has to be done by an embedded expert on math and ELA. The 9-week progress monitoring system, adopt and implement a research-based RTI math program that works in conjunction with the progress monitoring initiative. So not only are we monitoring the kids' work, but then when they aren't reaching where they need to be, what's our RTI program, our response to intervention that ensures that they're getting where they need to be? And then finally, supporting our Tier 1 curriculum with integrity and fidelity through consistent, strategic, and job-embedded professional development. So not only do we have the folks who are there, but then as a district, do we have a very consistent, very focused, very targeted version of professional development? Or is it, this department's doing this thing, this department's doing this thing, and we're all kind of disjointed? It needs to be focused and strategic. You see a similar goal for high school assessment at the bottom. Moving on, I know it's much in everyone's mind, our ACT average. We believe 1.7 points over 5 years, that would get us above the state average. But we believe that's a basic goal. Anything above and beyond that is something we want to go for. And you can see there are 7 action steps that are very important to reaching that goal. And I won't go over every single one of them, but we firmly believe you have to have a plan with this, as I've said before. District graduation rate from 77.8 to 80 by the end of 2021, and the goal is for graduation rate to be at 86% by 2024-2025. I'm going to skip a few of these and go to the page that says decrease CIR UIR schools by 70% with 30% on track to exit. And we believe that can be done within the next 5 years as well. And finally, that'll get us off the academic goals. There's some I skipped there, but I wanted to be able to get you to the next area. Retention and recruitment. Decrease the number of uncertified teachers district-wide by blank percentage. We believe within a 5-year goal, and I'm sorry, you can write it in if you'd like, but we believe that we can reduce that by 90% within 5 years. And that's a multi-tiered process, 7 different action steps, and there'll probably be more that'll be added to that. And we want people to also realize that this is going to be a living document. We want to be held accountable to this document. When we want you to have a copy of this, and we're going to make nice fancy ones for you, but when you ever have a question when data is released, you can bring this document, pull it up on our website, because it's going to live there for the next 5 years, and you pull it up and you say, okay, they went up to an 18 on ACT, that's great, but where does that match on their strategic plan? It's still 3 points below, and they said they were going to be here by this time. Accountability is not just for our teachers, principals, and ourselves, it's for the entire district, and we want the board and our parents and community to hold us accountable. Also, we want to increase our number of ed leader certified staff district-wide. We believe that within 5 years, that every ed leader, that'll be 100%. 100% of our leadership will be certified. We are creating a leadership academy. We've hired Mr. Ben LeGrand as our director of academics, who's going to be specifically mentoring leaders and creating that pipeline. Create masters and doctoral cohorts at local universities. NSU we are already in discussions with them to have master's level cohorts where we can get a group of 20 people who are interested in being leaders within this district, and they can create a cohort together and they can progress through the leadership academy and come out with their ed leadership. And we can also one day get with NSU with that on a doctoral level, although they don't have that right now, but with UL or Tech do the same thing at the doctoral level. And then we've also instituted assistant principal meetings because we believe, obviously, assistant principals, because of their youth and everything, that they are the future. They are our next principals. So we are building that ability with them. Moving on to our early childhood. These were largely created by Ms. Cassandra Anderson and Ms. Julie Wright. By the end of 2023-2024 academic year, we will increase knowledge about and the support for the high-quality early childhood care and education within the Natchitoches community. And you can see they have multiple areas there. We will also increase our birth to 3-year-old seats from 29% to 59%. We now know, based on the literature and based on the data, that if we don't prepare our students to enter kindergarten, to enter pre-K even, that they are already going to start behind. And you think of your own children and what they were able to do at that age level. We need to ensure that no matter your background, no matter your income, you're ready to learn. And so that's in an effort to make sure that's the case for all Natchitoches Parish residents. We are increasing our third-year-old seats by 30% within the next 4 or 5 years. And then also, we want to retain those professionals at the daycare centers and the early childhood centers, because the longer they stay with us, the more effective they are. And then finally, by August 2022, child care centers are sharing resources and services to lower expenses and increase support and eliminate duplication across the parish. What we've already seen with early childhood is we've seen that all of our early childhood centers have increased their scores statewide to where we are all at the 3rd level. Our goal with all these things is to have all our child care centers at excellence, and then once we get to excellence, to be at the highest level. And if we do that, we believe, again, this will correct a lot of the ills within society, but within the district as well. Technology, our biggest goal right there is to maintain our 1-to-1 student ratio that we've been blessed with. And then there's a lot of other very technical goals that Mr. Kozad and his team have created that I think are very valuable, but I'll let you read those at your leisure. If you move on to culture, we want to create a culture of academics in this district. Not that other things aren't important, but specifically literacy and numeracy, equity, high expectations, and data and research-based decisions. If you want to know the culture of Natchitoches Parish, in our vision, it is literacy and numeracy, equity for all students. Every student, no matter, again, their background, their socioeconomics, that they receive the same high level of education. Thirdly, high expectations. High expectations for myself, for each other, for our students, for our teachers. And then finally, that everything we're doing is not just willy-nilly, we're just pulling it out of the air, but it's data-based and it's based on research. Community, we want to create a higher level of parent and community engagement. There's multiple levels here of what we want to do that, but that is the most important area of community engagement. Students whose parents are involved are more successful, bottom line. And many of the folks in this area will say, well, some parents just aren't going to come. Well, that's not good enough. We are going to be creative, we're going to be innovative, we're going to pull in businesses to help us, and we are going to reach people where they need. If it means going to any neighborhood and doing things in the neighborhood because parents aren't willing to come, or it doesn't mean we get them to our schools by feeding them, whatever it takes, we are going to overall improve our parent involvement in this district, and you can look at the action steps there. Communication, Ms. Parish created most of these. It's basically about, we've already built the framework for our communication. We feel as though we're doing a good job, but what can we do to continually improve that? And she has numerous goals for improving our engagement of community members, engaging our families more, and also engaging people more on our social media platforms. And you can, again, read those at your leisure. And then finally, thank you for following me for this long, but finally, fiscal responsibility, or the business and operations area. Me and Mr. Wascom looked at this area very intently. We want to create financial efficiency because we want people to know when we one day, whether it's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or whenever, when we come to the community and say we need something, we want them to have full faith that we have been good stewards of our money, and that the money that we currently have, we have exhausted every efficiency within that budget possible. And I believe that we're on a path in that direction, because as you'll see in the budget report, Mr. Wascom is going to share, he just creates good news constantly. He's a financial wizard, I think, is the term they use. We also want to review and evaluate our student-teacher ratio, as well as administrative costs and overhead per school and at central office, to create balance between money spent on personnel and the money going to our children. We don't want fluff at the top. We don't want we don't want to be spending things just to fill spots when we could be doing more for the kids. And as cheesy as that sounds, it's the truth. We need to be putting money into the classrooms, not into the hands of some of us adults at central office. We want to, I think a major goal is we want to increase the general fund balance from its current level of $6.7 million to $10 million by the end of year 2023. So that's kind of our rainy day fund, so to speak, to make sure that we are prepared for anything, even a global pandemic. And then we also want to improve the maintenance and preservation of existing facilities. And that's Mr. Wascom's big thing, is if we can do that, if we can improve our maintenance and preservation of those facilities we currently have, it reduces all of our expenditures, and it means that we spend less money and we have a better product for our students. There is a ton of information in here. This is a draft document. Please take it home with a red marker, draw all over it. I already sent it out to staff here at the district level, and I was amazed at some of the response I got back. Ms. Rachel sent me a page-long email, and every last thing she put on there, I said, "You're a genius. Let's put it in there. It makes sense. It's actionable, and it's something that can improve this document." So we want to have this completely finalized by the January board meeting. So in this next month, we will take time and we will get criticism and critiques from the board, from teachers, from principals, etc. But this is a document that many people in this room have poured blood, sweat, and tears into. And I think if it's a beautiful little document, we're going to make it even prettier, but it's going to take action. It's going to take difficult action. It's going to take some hard choices. But if we do this, I believe everything I promised you in all those interviews can come to fruition, and we can be that A district. So, sorry to take up so much time, but this is very important, and I'm able to answer any questions, but you probably need some time to digest before we delve too deep into it.
Dr. Greenlaw, thank you for that very informative superintendent's report.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Benefield, I have one last thing on the superintendent report, and that is we know that the federal government has not extended the COVID federal leave yet, and that is due to go out on December 31st. We do believe it will be reenacted, but we will be honoring that until the U.S. Congress does what they need to do in terms of that. So I wanted to put anyone at ease about that.
I got a question with COVID. What are we gonna do with these basketball games when we got people coming in? They got their masks on, but then once they get in the gym, they don't put their masks on. I think we need to put something in place with that, because I know I've seen it with the football, but you're outside. But this we're gonna be closing a closing space.
So what we have talked to principals about, and we have a principal meeting Monday where we're going to be taking it to another level. And I really think most of the community and all the principals realize, because I just think over the past month, COVID has taken a different direction, that the seriousness, even for those who haven't been taking it seriously, I think they're starting to see that they need to. So what we're going to be telling the principals is you do have security there, and we do have constant communication with the sheriff and try to have those conversations of, we don't want to have to escort people out, but what mitigation efforts to do everything we can to get people to do right. And then at that ultimate final point, when we need to escort someone out, is that something that our principals are comfortable with and the sheriff would be able to assist us with when they have their security there with us? We don't want it to get to that point. We want to remind people and encourage and say it with smiles as much as possible, and have, like Mr. Coleman in NCHS be able to go up and say, hey, put your mask on. But we do anticipate that there's going to be a point where we probably have to have more severe conversations with people, and we are in talks to be able to have a plan in place to do that between ourselves, the principals, and the sheriff's department.
Mr. Eli, in reference to that, he did voice a concern. I was concerned about that too, because I just saw recently a video from Natchitoches Central High School. Someone had posted on Facebook during a recent basketball game, where there were several groups of people inside the gym without masks on, a large congregation sitting in various spots, and that's a dangerous situation. So I think we do need to make sure we do enforcement because of the status of COVID here in Natchitoches. And for something like that to happen on one of our facilities, there's a liability for the school board. Is that correct? Involved.
So
the principals do need to make sure that enforcement is
there's some technicalities there that I don't want to get into, because you're right, although legally we are covered because it's a non-academic, and LHSAA covers the athletics, and Bessie covers the academics, which is a weird area, but we are taking the stance, no matter what Bessie and LHSAA says, that we believe COVID's real, it's here, it's affecting people, and we're going to take a strong stance on that. Those images that y'all saw, I've seen as well, and we've had conversations with the folks that are able to enforce that, and that was an impetus for us to have a more stricter stance, because I think we were, to some degree, we were relying on people's good graces and intelligence and rational thinking, and unfortunately some people just aren't willing. So the deal is, if you come into one of our events by virtue of purchasing a ticket, you are saying you will go by our guidelines, and our guidelines are you will have your mask on during the event.
Thank you.
Dr. Eloy, we actually have already done some of the things that you just talked about in your superintendent report. We talked earlier how many people that we, uncertified teachers are now in a program, is that correct? And Ms. Page gave us a number, 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think right now we have probably about, say 60, 65 that are not in a program, is that correct?
You're probably closer to a total of uncertified folks in the district in the mid-70s, because this goes up and down as the year goes by. As far as not in a program, I have that, and I have that number on my desktop, and I can have that to you exactly by Thursday, but it shouldn't be, it should be less than 60 who are not in a program, I believe, and Ms. Page,
Yes.
but I can have you that exact number Thursday.
But I have to let you know, and you're aware of this, that is a 40% reduction of where we were a year ago. So we're making great strides. The next thing is, as far as Mr. Wascom and facilities, we absolutely started doing something with that in January with Mr. Menzie and his committee. And Mr. Wascom is just going to bring us to another level with that. So that's absolutely great. Board members, any questions on the superintendent report? Okay, can we take a look at the consent agenda? All right, Mr. Cosette, do we have any comments from the public?
Not as of 5 p.m. Can you repeat that? No.
Mr. Cozad said on email, not as of 5 p.m. Sorry.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Mr. Dancy, your finance report, please, sir.
Yes, if you would bear with me, and we have a school activity fund audit, and I would like to bring that up to number 8. I'd like to have that first. Where would you like us to stand? Do you want us at the table so he can see us?
He's saying it does not matter. So if y'all want to stand at the podium and speak, Mr. Benefield, Mr. Reverend Harris, y'all can hear? Okay.
All right.
Good.
Good
Hand it
evening.
over to
Thank
Roger.
y'all for the invitation to be here. Can everybody hear me fine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm here tonight to present the annual audit report for the student activity funds. Many of you are familiar with this. For those of you who may not be familiar with these funds, I refer to these funds as fundraising funds. This is not tax money. This is not money that comes out of the general budget. This is money raised at each school. Much like athletics, 4-H, science club, band, different student organizations that have their different activities. The reason why we have this annual report is because it's a lot of money. A lot of cash. A lot of opportunity for misdirection of funds. So every parish in this state would like to make sure that the internal controls, much like this school board has implemented, are being followed at each of these schools, so that you can feel confident that the money that's being raised and collected is going into the school account and is being spent for the benefit of the students who raise the money. So that's our job, to come in and do an annual audit. And so I'm going to spend, it's a 105-page report, I believe. Ms. Roy is an excellent note taker. So she asked me to slow down and go page by page. It's not going to work, is it? I'm afraid if I did that, Mr. Eloy would put me in a closet with those new foggers, and I'd find myself with a door closed. So I'll go through this real quick. And I'm just going to make some highlights, if you'll follow with me. parish-wide, to give you an indication of how much money these schools had at the end of the year, look on page 5, upper right-hand corner. At the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, there was $1,142,000 in the bank. Again, this is money that's being raised in part at the school. One bank account for each school. For the year, that's what was in the bank at the end of the year. For the year, if you look on page 9, this is the subtotal page for the money that has come through the hands of all the schools. For last year, it was over $2 million was raised in various activities. So you can see that's a lot of money, a lot of activities, a lot of transactions that this school board wants to make sure that the policies and controls that y'all have implemented are being followed. So that again, money goes where it's supposed to go and is spent for the benefit of the kids who raise the money. That's the two overriding goals of your controls that you've implemented, or that you put in place at these schools. So that just kind of gives you an overview financially of what's happening in this parish. What you really want to know is not the dollars. You want to know are those controls being followed. And so that's really the meat of what my report is, at least my presentation to you tonight. In the very back of this report, starting on page 101, we have summary of audit results. Now the good news is we have different definitions of what findings are. I will tell you that for the student activity funds, we didn't really find any material weaknesses that you need to be alarmed about. But there's always some internal control matters that we want to point out, bring to your attention, that Mr. Wascom would like to follow up with at each of the schools. Dr. Elo would like to follow up at each of these schools and make sure that they're just continuing to improve these controls. On the next page, 102, I believe it is our report on some of those findings. And we broke them down into basically 4 areas. They seem to be the same areas every year. They're getting a little better. And I will tell you that the last year was a different circumstance. Everybody knows after football season what happened. Things started shutting down. People started going about their business in different ways. And so we expected to see some things happening. Number one, the ticketing at athletic events. There was a lot of different things going on post-football and basketball and baseball, which got shut down. Softball got shut down. So revenues dropped. Perhaps ticketing controls were changed a little bit. People weren't coming to help out as much. So yeah, we saw some errors in the way people were handling gate money at athletic events. There was several instances where ticketing was not being followed right to make sure that everybody was coming through was paid. Perhaps there were some not opportunities, but there were some instances where as money changed hands from who was at the gate to the office, maybe they weren't signing off everybody agreeing what money was changing hands. So those things happened. They happened the year before. They've gotten a little bit better, even despite COVID and despite the strange things that happened last year. Talked to Mr. Wascom. Had an excellent conversation with him and Ms. Ms. Rock. And I think they've got a good plan going forward. Meeting with each of the principals, meeting with the schools, and kind of going through the processes again. The second and third items are more transactional based, where we go in and we actually look to see if there's supporting documentation for the money that's being collected and spent. You want to make sure that you can prove how the money came in, and you can prove that it was spent correctly. So the error rate that we're finding, again, is a little bit further, is dropped a little bit from last year. But it is still something we want to point out. You got to continue to go to these schools and remind them what these controls are, what they need to be doing to make sure that they're following the rules that you have set. The last item was just an issue that I spoke with Mr. Wascom and Ms. Rock again about. We want to make sure that these principals, they delegate a lot of these activities, a lot of these responsibilities to the secretary of each of these schools. That's just the way it happens. So we want to make sure that these principals, if they're delegating these responsibilities, at least take the time to do some review and supervision of what's going on. Because ultimately, the buck's going to stop at their desk. They're responsible for what happens, not the secretary, the principal. And so we're encouraging them to at least do the review of what the secretaries are doing, acknowledging that they're reviewing it, and signing off and issuing the documents to show that review. Any questions? Was that brief enough, Ms. Roy?
So overall, it's been better, it was better this year than last
It
year?
has improved this year, yes ma'am. Well, I thank y'all again. I'm right across the field of parking lot, so if anybody ever has any questions about this report, please feel free to contact me. I speak occasionally throughout the year with Ms. Rock, and I'm sure I'll be speaking with Mr. Waston too, as he fills the new role. So I'm looking forward to continuing to help. And I thank y'all again for letting me come and present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 1, take appropriate action on bids. We had no bids that I'm aware of. Item number 2, receive transportation report. Mr. Matthews.
Good afternoon. Good evening. I want to start by saying that right now we are fully staffed as a transportation company. All the routes are filled. We actually have 2 drivers right now that are considered sub-drivers, to where they come in, either they'll ride on a route with drivers, or we have them in the office as standby drivers. What really, I think, helped us get to that point is that we have 5 bus monitors that transition to drivers. And on this Saturday, we'll be transitioning 1 more as she takes her test to become a driver. That was something we launched to try to do to get our driver pool deeper, and then we'll just hire on new monitors. I'd like to thank the team members of Echo Ride for all of their hard work and dedication through this time, as well as the principals, teachers, staff, and definitely the parents. We've had a lot of things due to COVID. We had to change some changes up on a daily basis, and some things that we were just asking them to be patient with, and they've shown so much patience. I'd like to thank them for that. Right now, we have all of our drivers working. We don't have any drivers right now that's out due to COVID. Definitely thankful for that. We also have 3 drivers right now attending a training class in New Orleans to add to our master trainer drivers. And what that is a program that is mandated by Louisiana. Every driver that we hire have to go through a 30-hour training class. And we're adding to that training pool now so we can cover more drivers at a time. And we'll be having 2 more go in the next training class. And right now, that's how I do. Any questions?
Mr. Matthews?
Yes, ma'am.
As part of your training process, when the drivers have completed the training and they got in the city of, put the training and they're put out on the road, they're given a route and put out on the road. What's the policy for ride along for new drivers?
The policy right now is 3 to 4 days. We were having issues with that before we were fully staffed. So we would have the gentleman that actually trains them to go to their third-party test. A part of their test is to physically drive the bus on a route. So we was having him, while he trained them to drive and to back up, drive their route to train on. If they needed more training, sometimes we would put another driver with them when possible. But other than that, they would be on the route.
The reason I was asking because I'm always talking to someone, and someone's always calling me about a various concern. And I was made aware of a situation where a new driver was placed on the road without having a ride along. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 incidents, but I do know it's one.
Yeah, well, she may not have had,
Safety issue there.
well, she may not have had a ride along that day, but she definitely drove that route as a trainer. You understand what I'm saying? So that was her first time. Every time they drive, there will be a day where they're on the road by themselves on the bus. But during her training, her 40 hours of training, that trainer drove the route with her, without kids. So he trained her on the route. So she knew the route as far as where to go, the turns to make, and where to stop at. She was trained on that route. So by the time she got her license, she had driven that route about 4 or 5 times. And then we placed her on the route to do the route.
And I just wanted to make sure that we were, they were getting the proper training, especially when you put a new driver out there, because our primary goal is to make sure that the kids are safe.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. I've never placed a driver on a route and they wasn't sure of themselves that they can do it by themselves. The driver said, hey, I'm not prepared or I don't feel comfortable. We definitely wouldn't put them out there without someone riding with them. And when they turn those drivers over, when my trainer turned the driver over to me, I'm assured that they are comfortable with that route. When they drive by themselves, there's always going to be some thoughts that, I can get through it, but they're definitely 100% trained on that route. As far as all of the turns they have to make, all of the stops, none of those drivers have to go out on their first day with a paper in their hand. And that's what I made sure of. They know the route. So at that point, they know the route, they can concentrate on disciplining the kids, keeping the kids calm, and they know exactly where they're going. It's never a situation to where I have to give them a paper route, and now you have 20 kids on the bus, and you're trying to find where you're going off of a turn by turn.
And Mr. Matthews, it sounds like what you're saying as well is between you and the trainers, no driver goes out for their first time unless everyone, the driver, the trainer, and yourself are comfortable with the situation.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm just indicating information I was given from a reliable source.
Okay.
That the driver was not feeling safe because there was no route along and it was a new driver. So I sure hope that the information we're receiving is true and accurate.
Okay, but definitely, I'm always open. We always have an open door policy. That driver doesn't have to step forward. If you wanna have that conversation, we can get with that driver, we can talk about it at a different time. But I can assure you that if I asked them and they told me, yes, I'm ready, and my trainer felt that they were ready, we'll put them on the road. If they need additional training, they could come back. If they felt like, hey, I did this, it's raining today, tell me something different, I have issues I found, we'll definitely sit down with them, bring them in, pay them to come and sit down and go through more training.
Thank you. I'd rather just keep that information confidential.
Oh, it's no problem, but that's the protocol that we
That
follow.
was concerned because, as I said, our kids'
Right.
safety is the number one priority for the government.
Definitely.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
You welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the PPE that's offered to your employees? Do they have adequate equipment
Yes.
constantly?
We have an abundance of the disinfectant spray that we first started out with this year. We have all of the masks for the gloves, for the driver still. We've just recently added more masks to the buses now for the students. If they were to come to the bus without a mask, at the beginning of the year, we would put them on the bus, isolate them, get them to the school, and the school would issue a mask. Now, we're actually giving the students the mask when they come to the bus. That's something Ms. Page and I worked on, and we have an extra 10 masks on every bus right now. So the drivers are responsible for sanitizing the bus after their morning route, and then sanitizing the bus after their PM route as well. When we were out for Thanksgiving, I brought in about 3 drivers to go through and sanitize every bus, just over the holiday break. Just to make sure that when we started back from Thanksgiving, everything was done under my eyes.
So, Mr. Matthews, I think it'd be beneficial for the board, when a driver does run out of PPE, what's their process for getting more from y'all?
We have a gentleman that refills all of our sanitation every Friday. If they run out before Friday, they call us and we either bring it to them or we have another driver at that school bring it to them. If they park on the yard, we go and refill it ourselves. But he checks every Friday, no matter what. And it's up to the drivers to say, hey, I'm running low, can you refill me? And then we definitely refill it at that time.
I have another question, I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, so at Natchitoches Central, there seems to be a daily problem of maybe switching buses. Kids aren't sure what bus to get on a daily basis.
Okay.
And, they're continuously there more than an hour after school lets out.
Yep. I am aware of that problem. That's a problem we have to address with some non-Echo Ride drivers. Mr. Eloy is definitely aware of that situation. Echo Ride, we have definitely we've implemented a different approach to it. So we send 2 buses. There's a split because we have a driver that's out. It's a boy driver that's out.
Right now?
Right now, yes ma'am. His route is covered, but then we sent another driver to help out. It's just unfortunate that driver has to finish his route to go and help. We're just waiting on that driver to come back up for sick leave.
Okay, I thought you said you were fully staffed.
We are. The drivers, that situation is a boy driver. So when we have those drivers that's sitting or waiting, or those ones we just got, we'll send them to Natchitoches High School to actually finish that, split that route to help out, to make sure the kids get home earlier. Than that, it's like a 45-minute wait time.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, from a board standpoint or a liability standpoint, rather it's, when kids have idle time on their hands, they can always find something to do that's not very constructive.
Exactly.
So, do y'all keep that into consideration when you're deciding like how long kids wait before they get on the bus?
We really don't like them to wait at all.
Yeah. Is there anything we can do to get to that point where they're not waiting, where there's buses there when the kids get out of school, like ready to pick them up?
There is something that we're ready to do. We just have to have another conversation. And we'll have that conversation tomorrow.
And I believe we're dealing with personnel issues.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
sir.
we'll
Yes,
do that
sir.
offline.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But with that situation we're ready to solve that situation.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's good to hear. Thank you so
No
much.
problem. No problem. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you.
Item number 3, receive tax commission report, Mr. Watson.
Okay, I have put in y'all's package here, tax commission report that Jeremy McWhorter gives us. Some good news, still even with COVID, things are still looking overall up. I'm on, well, they're printed front to back, and so I'm now on what is the page 3. And you see the month of October, the red colored bar is the current year, and the blue candy cane bar looking thing is last year. But, overall, this is month by month, we need to go year to date. About 4% on the next page for the year. And this year starts in January. This is a calendar year, which differs from the year we do financially. So we're about a 4% increase, 4.11% increase. I'd like to really go back to, all the way to the back. Here's a report called, the very last page, called Fiscal Year Sales Tax Distributions. This is July, August, September, and October, so this is the year we are actually fiscally in. This is also the cumulative number, and we have collected, if you look on the second to last column at the very bottom, as of the end of October, we've collected $372,485 more than last year, and it's a 6.45%. I normally would ask that the board make an adjustment because it's over the threshold of 5%, but since, as you see, it's in decline, I'm going to hold off because I think here in a few months it'll be underneath the 5% mark. If y'all are okay with that, I think that would be best. It looks like that right now, considering the strength of the decline, it's going to be a little off for the year. It may be a little off by the time the year ends. We'll just have to see how December goes. December is a big month. We receive the December funds in January. December sales get collected in January. We receive them 1st of February. So give us a few more months. We'll see where we really are with sales taxes because the next few months of sales are big. So I think realistically, overall, we've done well with sales tax collections, considering everything that we're under and how some businesses out there. I serve on the tax commission, and the reports are pretty much if you have a hardware store, you're doing great. If you have a restaurant with a drive-through, you're doing great. If you don't, you're struggling probably. The mom and pop stores are all struggling enormously. Very thankful so far that the Christmas festival has been able to go off and give the opportunity for the people on the river on the front street to have reasonably close sales to last year. I think they were down over 30 to 40% over last year, and now hopefully they'll get closer. So I'm just hoping for the best success for all the mom and pop stores in our town in general, and that includes the parish as well. But what seems to be really suffering are the downtown, actually throughout the entire town itself, the mom and pop stores. Okay. Auto car sales are up. Let me see if he included that report here. I did not see it in his report. He usually includes that one. He did not give it. Auto sales were up dramatically. I can't explain. Auto sales were up. Sales tax collections and automotive sales were up like 200,000 in 1 month. It's just dramatic. So some of these increase in sales tax collections are in automotive sales.
Automotive, because all these dealerships giving these big discounts and cheap interest rates and all that, trying to get all
it's working.
Get all the 2020s off the lot, you know.
So, are there any other comments or questions regarding the tax commission?
When do the teachers get their tax check?
Well, okay, good question. Do we have the amount, Chad, did we get the program working?
We're working on it. They'll get it by the 15th.
What's happened is we switched to a new payroll program. We have a unique way in which we calculate our sales tax that other parishes, so we have to get a program. It did not work very well, so they had to go to basically doing it by hand in July. We switched to this new program last February. They hope they have everything fixed. We made some preliminary runs today. First look wasn't hopeful, but we'll see. We may go back to the hand system. So we'll do it by hand, it'll be later. Our goal is maybe first of next week. That's the goal.
Okay.
Okay?
But no later than the 15th?
We will not be later than the 15th. Trust me, all the people working on this also get it sales tax. So we're all financially interested in getting that, but we are trying to get it out to the teachers particularly, as soon as possible, because we know that it's wanted.
Mr. Walton, because I am not a financial person, but I think you put it really well to me earlier in the week, is that the system we have for the accounting does all the same things for every parish. But we are the only parish that calculates our sales tax checks in a very specific way.
Correct.
So they had to code it specifically for us, and when one thing goes out, the only people who can fix that are those folks, and it's just very cumbersome.
We have 600 and some odd employees.
Yeah.
That, when you're doing it manually, it takes a long time. But we're hoping that the whole system will be fully functional. That pretty well wrap it up, Chad?
We're talking about checks going out for December the 15th, the tax checks?
They are, we will have them out
Okay.
before then, for sure.
Thank you.
But I know everybody would like to have them out by the next 5 or 6 days to a week. Our goal is next Monday or Tuesday. That's our goal. Can't hold me on it, but we will definitely have it out by the 15th.
Unfortunately, you just said that in an open meeting, so
Yeah,
I think you're gonna get quoted on.
I know, it's a goal.
Okay, item number 4, receive the budget update.
Okay.
More good news.
Well, there's 2 elements of the budget. I have the budget that I usually give to you guys. Let's go over that real quick, and I'll get to the good news later. That's this one here with the yellow lines across the. I once again added a line that had actual 2000. Okay, so the second column, the first column is the budget for this year. The second column is where we were at this same point in time last year. And the third column is where we are actually at this time. So if the first line, you'll see the revenues are slightly, or they're slightly above last year at this time in collections. And salaries are actually a little bit of savings there. Up to the first yellow line, everything looks good. The second one is child nutrition. You can see that at this time last year, we collected nearly $2 million. This year, we've only collected at this point in time $436,000. Yeah, so that should be a concern for all of us. This has to do with the year starting late, not as many kids showing up in the beginning. It's been a very slow roll-up. We only get paid from the federal government as based on the number of meals we deliver. So, anyhow, this has been a slower. So remember, we have fixed costs, which is the expenditure side. Ms. Hicks feels certain that these numbers will start growing closer together as we get later in the year. It is something for you guys as board members to watch. It is a very strong concern. Remember, regardless of whether we deliver 1 plate of food or 20,000 plates of food, we have fixed costs. We have labor. And those people have payroll and everything. So and that's the problem, is that we don't have variable labor. We have fixed labor, and then we're varying very on the low side of the number of meals we're delivering. So financially, it's just to let y'all know, that's something we should continue to watch. On the second page is Title I. Title I collections are on the third column at the top, are $785,000 as compared to $540,000. But you'll also see that the expenditures are up by nearly the same amount of increase in revenue. So, anyhow, it is, was that right? Yes, I'm right. The issue there is some of this is COVID. She was given extra money for COVID. And even though some of the money was spent last year in the last cycle, some of this is the money residually coming in for this year, because the federal budget ends September 30th, right? It ends September 30th. So anyhow, there's some 3 months of delay and how the money is doled out to us. So that's where this is here. I think that this is in line with what we can expect. We actually last year were in a little bit worse position, but in the year end, revenues, and when it comes to these federal monies, at the end of the year, revenues always equal expenses. You're forced to, it's forced to be that way. We cannot report $1 or 1 penny more than what we're allowed.
And I see a lot of expenditures for supplies,
Yeah, this has to do,
for the COVID.
yes, sir. So if this is, are there any other questions about this part? Well, I'd like to now get to some good news. And what I'm about to present to you guys surprised me, but I spoke to Tim Page and went over the expected tax collections through ad valorem. The purposes of this discussion, we're not going to talk about ad valorem taxes we raised for bonds. I did not touch that area, okay? And I can break this down should anybody want a full drill down into any of this. But there have been a lot of things that have gone on, the most surprising of which happened in Consolidated School District number 7. The taxable value of the money that they tax for ad valorem tax went from 56 million to 75 million in 1 year. It's a $19 million taxable jump. So it has to do with gas infrastructure, utilities infrastructure. Y'all remember we were talking, well, thinking years ago that DeSoto Parish was fortunate that they had all this gas infrastructure. You're now beginning to see a taste of what it was like for them. Except only in the northern strip of our parish is this going on. If this were going on throughout the parish, this would be a dramatic impact on all of us here. So, just in this one corner of our parish, the Ashland, is it right, Ashland Goldana area, just this one piece of our parish, we had a $19 million worth of increase in value. It's a 34% increase in value of that entire area. 34% increase. That's great. So, with that said, that $19 million is also added to the general parish-wide taxes as well. So, I would now like to present to you guys, and I have presented it to y'all in separate paperwork, y'all have this one here, this page here. This is the general fund adjustment. There is a constitutional tax and what we call renewable tax. That is, one is set by the Constitution of Louisiana, and the other one is the renewing tax that we renew time to time. It has increased, the two of these combined that are in yellow at the top in the far corner, have increased $475,000 jump over what we gave to you as a budget. Now remember, when Ms. Rock presented the budget to you guys in August, she was basing everything on experience from the previous year. I did not receive Tim Page's updates until just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's a significant increase. So I have increased these revenue items in this proposition to get approved to this board tonight, well, I guess Thursday, to be voted on. Increase in these two line items and also increasing payroll. So the $24,053,000 line item would increase to $24,529,000. That also is, so the total impact was dang near $476,000 increase. So that was a good day when I heard that, but it keeps on going. All right, now moving on to the next few pages. This first page here has at the top, this is the BR. Now the rest of this talk will be about BRE funds. All right, this is BRE funds consolidated number 7. First line only. We currently budgeted and had an experience from last year of $368,369. Because of all this 34% increase and the fact they just passed a new millage rate, their new number for BRE is Goldana, Lakeview, and Fairview is $909,000. It is a $541,000 increase in VRE funds to be spread across those three schools. I called Tim Page several times to verify this. I have documentation. It is legitimate. Now, if you'll keep flipping through about 3-4 more pages back, you see the end. Now, we just spread the expenses throughout what we thought would randomly happen for that, so that it continues to balance. So the next one is consolidated district number 8. First top line item, column 1, is what we adopted at $85,918. The revised budget is $120,526. So that's Provençal. And that's a $34,608 increase.
Mister, would you give those numbers, I'm sorry,
I-
may I ask, would you give those two numbers again?
Okay.
Budget.
Okay, consolidated district number 8 was, we had budgeted, based on experience, $85,918. The new number we would like the board to adopt based on Tim Page's report is $120,526. Sure. Okay, let's go to district number 9, which is just one page over. We've currently adopted $1,366,380. We'd like to raise that to $1,520,889. $154,509 increase. Now, that's the inner city schools VRE fund. That's actually still probably not enough money. I'll be honest with you. That's all our biggest schools. However, so keep going. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. It's just the very last page. Some of mine tore off here. Here's Martinsville. Sorry, mine's separated from my page here. Hang on a minute.
You need this one,
Well, just what was it say? Here it is. Marthaville currently says $802,538, and is the new number is $840,635. The total of all of this, $1,244,274 worth of budget updates. This is all through ad valorem taxes. This is not the sales tax side. Bulk of this money will be collected in the months of January, February, and March. Because, you know, the collections for December, which are the biggest side, show up in January. So,
Merry Christmas.
are there any other questions on that? Merry Christmas?
Are there any questions?
I have a basic random question,
Certainly.
and I guess I probably should have asked Mr. Cunningham, but he presents the budget his presentation was for the school funds, and then we have another CPA that we use for the general
Right,
fund.
the CPA was just showed up here yesterday. He will be done by tomorrow with his search here. He's wanting to complete and conclude this budget, this audit by the end of December. He wants to present something, if possible, depending on the timing of our next month's board meeting at the next board meeting.
Okay, and I guess my question is there any benefits or reason that we use two different firms? And is there any benefit for us to consolidate and use just one?
It's preferred to use two different firms because of the time that it takes and it's a lot more expensive for the guy who comes to Mississippi to do the audit than it is for him to do the school audit.
This is his last year.
Yeah,
No, I'm just saying, he wants this to be his last year.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be looking for someone at that point, or?
Yes, at the end.
Yeah, we contract with them for,
Okay,
This is his 5th year.
Yeah.
That's 5th year.
okay.
And final year contractually. But typically it has to do with just, you're talking, all the time it takes to do one, you're doing two completely different aspects. One sort of out, all the school funds out in the field, and one's just here in central office. This, of course, is a more complicated one here.
All right. So I'm thinking like Rapide's parish
January as
uses,
opposed to August.
Yeah, what?
Right, but I think Rapides Parish uses one CPA firm for both accounts. And I didn't know if it would save us any money to use one CPA for both accounts.
Well, we'll go out for bids, I mean, we'll go out for bids and see, we usually do, whenever the term comes up.
Okay.
Well, the term is up at this, after this
So we
presentation.
will go out for bids, hopefully, you know, I don't know who does it in Alexandria, pay more here than maybe,
It is.
that's where I used to work.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you again.
Well, we have a maintenance report on it, so.
Yeah, the if you'll go with the maintenance, while you're there.
I'll leave it here. Hang on a minute. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Well, the last 2 weeks, just yesterday, they returned more than half of my maintenance department was out with COVID quarantine. Some were actually out with COVID. So, however, I thought a lot went well. This is the list of everything that had been going on. Michael Jocelyn was one of the ones that was quarantined, but he worked with Fred, and it seemed like it worked well. So this is just a general list of all the things that they worked on. Would like to say that the construction at Natchitoches Central, went to the construction meeting today. They're getting ready to start pouring concrete within the next couple of weeks. A couple of the slabs there. At some point in time, the big trunk line of electricity coming in at Natchitoches Central was put under somebody else, was put under one of the building's slabs. Anyhow, they're gonna have to reroute the main trunk line. So, they're gonna be doing that work just after Christmas. It will not interfere with school. But it will bring down, some, refrigeration and cooling. We'll have to get all the food cleaned out, so we don't have to do what happened with Hurricane Laura, where some of the food spoiled. That's all been arranged now with, Shauna Hicks, and then all lights will come back on. Also during this time, they're gonna be refitting the fluorescent lights with LED lights. A large portion of that project will be done at this time. So you'll start now seeing slabs being poured. Right after that, the red iron starts going up. So it gets fun. The 2 buildings that are now tornado-proof, theoretically, will be going up as well. So you'll see heavy-duty cinder block going in, and 2 of our buildings will be able to sustain an F5 tornado hit, direct hit. This is going on throughout the entire, well, at least today he brought up there's 5 states that have all enacted that. We are the first few buildings in the entire state of Louisiana that have this. So, but all future buildings that we build will have a section where everybody in that building can get into and be safe from a F5 hurricane.
That was the question I was gonna ask.
What's that?
That was the question I was gonna ask, was gonna be going to accommodate the.
Well, I don't know about the entire population, but at least the occupancy of that building for sure. But if you look at the space, you can clearly cram more people in there.
As long as they have masks on.
Well, hopefully, that won't be a problem in a few years.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so that's it with maintenance up there. I just encourage y'all to go by and see the buildings as they go up. We're also concluding the project at Natchitoches Junior High Friday. We have occupancy. They're coming to give us a fire marshal occupancy on Friday, and that's the ball field and all that area out there. Okay? All right. Thank y'all very much.
Item number 6, receive food service report.
That's gonna be Thursday.
That's gonna be Thursday, okay. Item number 7, consider a proclamation to the parish of Natchitoches to repair the road. Mr. Benefield?
Yes, sir. We, have been working on proclamation to actually go to the state of Louisiana to solicit funding to repair the roads in Natchitoches Parish. However, the district attorney has asked us to reconsider what we're doing and go to the parish first and then to the state. And so we changed the proclamation from last month, that was, heading to the state to go to the parish. Mr. Dancy, can you read that proclamation for us so the members of the public can hear everything he said?
Yeah, let's see. Yes, I will. Proclamation is, whereas there are many documented cases of vehicle damage due to the condition of the Natchitoches Parish roads, including front-end repairs, whereas there are many roads that do not meet the minimum standards of safety, whereas there are documented cases of parish law enforcement, ambulance service, and firefighters that struggle to provide emergency assistance due to the conditions of Natchitoches Parish roads, whereas Natchitoches Parish roads create issues to workers trying to get to their jobs, whereas Natchitoches Parish roads slowed response time restoring power during and after storms, whereas Natchitoches Parish School Board buses struggle to safely travel parish roads, creating problems picking up and delivering students on time at school and home. Many buses get stuck on these roads or cannot access them. Whereas the roads of Natchitoches Parish are in constant state of emergency and present danger to all that use them. Therefore, be it resolved that individuals and groups listed below do hereby advise the Natchitoches Parish Council to repair the roads in Natchitoches Parish. Be it further resolved, we will not cease to seek necessary funds to rebuild our parish roads because of the dangers they present to all that travel them.
Thank you, Mr. Danzy. And you have in your packet the people that Mr. Garner has been working with throughout the year. You can see there's proclamations by each one of the groups. They've all voted yes. The last being the Village of Ashland has come in today. Mr. McGuire has contacted the Fire District 1, and we're working on the Village of Natchez. And so this proclamation, I'm asking the school board to vote positive to this proclamation and the names of the individuals that want our roads fixed. And with the representative, Vice President Harris, we visit the parish council on their December meeting and present this proclamation to them. At that point, we want them to sign on with us and send this down to the state. We're going to send it down to the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, the Governor, all of our representatives and senators that touch Natchitoches Parish, and we would like to have all full commitment and email. We'll send those people written copies, and we'll send the rest of the people in the Senate and in the House an email version. And so I'm asking the board as a whole to fully support this proclamation. Are there any questions?
We've been working on this for several months, like you said, and due to the COVID and so forth, it's been hard to get this all together, but we've finally got it there. And that's the only way it seems that we're gonna get some help on the roads is to get it from the state level. So I encourage the board to vote on this Thursday night and let's get this moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Garner, for all your hard work. Mr. Danzy, that's all I have on this item.
That concludes finance.
Mrs. Page, the personnel report. Mr. Danzy, next month we expect the same good news.
Yeah.
Okay, so in human resources, it has settled down finally. We are usually stable around October. It is now December, but, you know, in the midst of the pandemic, I think we're okay. We're still winning. We are still hiring more teachers than the ones we're losing. We are replacing the people who are retiring or resigning, so we still consider that a win. Everything else is here. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Any questions for Mrs. Page?
Yes, sir?
No, he said any questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Page. Mr. Harris has asked, due to his location, has has asked us to take his, executive report. Ms. Rhonda Gidros, can you do that for us?
Yes. Item number 1, consider drug testing policy. Mr. Benefield.
Yes, ma'am. We convened a committee, Mrs. Rhonda Gidros, Mr. Emil, Stephen Harris, and Mrs. Dorothy Gaston, and myself, and looked at several drug testing policies to bring our parish up to speed and enhance what we already have in place. Mr. McGuire, can you summarize some of the recommendations that we have as a committee for the rest of the board?
I didn't understand that. Where we got some of the drug policies from?
Yes.
We got, from, Lincoln Parish, in the Soda Parish, the Ember Parish, and Rapides Parish. We got, our packages, dead drug policies.
And we should have Natchitoches Parish in there too, right?
Yeah, got Natchitoches Parish. We got, we went through them all and we just picked out some of the stuff what each one of the other parishes, had, and came out with, the Natchitoches Parish, policy that we wanted to present and vote on, Thursday. And what we were planning on doing is, let, Ms. Delois and, Ms. Page, they look over it or whatever, if they wanna add to it or take away from it. And then we'll send it on, after they look at it, we'll send it to the lawyer, you're saying, Billy?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we, as a committee, we landed on Lincoln, is that correct?
Yeah.
And that would be the policy. All the board members have the policies that we examined. And, we all, as a group and individually, we all kind of landed on Lincoln. It sounds, it's been, revised in the last couple of years. It's very plain spoken. It honors the spirit of what Dr. Eloy and Mrs. Page have asked us to do, is have something that we can work with and not be cumbersome. We also talked about, of course, our board and owner-operator all have, are governed by DOT, and so Echo Ride is taking care of that, and so we're covered in that area. But our recommendation from the committee is to use the Lincoln policy and make it Natchitoches. Does that sound like what we talked about this, Gidros?
Yes. Yes.
I read over them too. I'm not on the committee, but I read over them and I thought Lincoln was very, it was one of the more progressive, for sure.
Any
Further revised, most recent revised drug policy.
And that we say that, cause Ms. Page and, Dr. Eloy is gonna be the one working with it, we wanted them to go across it and look at it. And if they think we need to add something to it or take something away that y'all feel like we shouldn't have it, just bring it back to us and we'll, look at it and we can change it, or add something to it if y'all want.
As well as any board member.
Yeah.
Can do.
Yeah, good deal.
Anything else? Okay, item number 2 is to discuss the selection process for the new board president effective 2021. Ms. Phelps and Reverend Harris and Ms. Phelps, would you?
Yes, ma'am. This January will mark the 3rd election process that we've had together as a board. When we first came on, we voted for Ms. Rhonda. The second election cycle was Mr. Benefield. And I feel like as a board, we've never really sat down and had a conversation of what we expect from a board president. Or, what are some things that we should look for and what things are customary as far as behavior with a board president. So we were hoping to have that conversation tonight, so whenever we do meet in January to elect a new board president, that we could maybe have some questions answered or, just everybody talk about what you expect from your board president. And so that was an item that Mr. Harris and I both agreed on that really should be discussed. And I think one of the main questions I had, and maybe some of the more tenured board members can answer, are there items that are only privileged to a board president as far as information shared that should not go to the whole board?
Not usually, but anything voted on goes to the whole board.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually it's, the whole board, you know, when it's brought to the president's supposed to pass it along to the board members and then we come to a head at the meetings to vote on it or whatever, but we needed, the president's supposed to make sure we have all the information when we come to the meeting.
The only thing, Mrs. Phelps, might be if the superintendent contacts the board president with a question as a polling content or something like that. And of course, I'm sure he talks to other board members too. And there's also the one issue with inclement weather. He consults with the board president, but I don't know if there's a whole lot of extra. I think we kind of pass all the emails around.
That's the only policy. I mean, now we have a ton of policy, but I know with school closure due to inclement weather, I think the policy does specifically state something to the effect of superintendent in conjunction or dialogue with the board president, but I don't think there's any other policies but that's not a secretive thing either. That's more of just a logistical thing.
That's like 5 a.m. decision.
Yeah.
So are you also wanting to kind of just discuss what characteristics we're looking for, what sorts of things we'd like to see? I mean, I'll throw mine out there first. I mean, I think that, good, effective communication, is gonna be essential for the president. Somebody who is going to, effectively disseminate all information in a timely manner and is, respectful of, feedback from others as well. Any other comments?
Anybody else? Or any other questions or?
And it's a little bit easier now than it has been in the past. In the years past, we didn't necessarily have use the email that we're all on now, so it was a little bit difficult to get some information, because somebody you had to call them, or track them down, so it makes it a little bit easier now, and I think it's more fluid, what I see anyway, than it has been in the past.
And the text, Mr. Danzig, to please check your email too. So yeah, you're right. But there's several forms of communication that were not, I guess the board had access to prior.
Gotcha.
Sometimes, when, information is passed on, is sent out to the board members, we might not receive it, and because of issues with us having access to, our school board emails, so that's a problem, but it'd be unknown to the president or whoever is bringing it to that individual's attention. So that's something, but we do have other means, like you said, the text and telephone calls, so we have various means of other communication. That's been an ongoing problem with the emails, well, that's technology. Sometimes we have a problem.
So next month, we would just give nominations, right? At the January meeting.
Yeah, that's a good question. Is that what we would normally do?
Yeah, that's normally, that's normally what that, the nominations and the votes.
It will be done at the Thursday board meeting. The first board meeting, committee meeting will be a non-voting meeting the Thursday meeting, the new officers will take office.
That's all I have. I don't know if Mr. Harris has anything.
So on Thursday, we'll have the, listing in regards to the modified process or the changes that you all are suggesting to the board, and we'll vote on that. Is that something that we'll be doing on Thursday?
With,
Voting on the new, suggestions or that you all have discussed?
well, I wasn't making any new suggestions. I was just hoping for open conversation of how this process is done and what we expect from a board president.
Okay.
So there's nothing new that I was proposing at all. It was just a discussion item.
Okay,
And so, so that wouldn't be done until January according to,
the vote, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just was, wondering if we're gonna be looking at voting on, a change in the process as far as suggestions, just like Ms. Broadway indicated that she's concerned about, which I think we'd all be agreeing with that.
oh, yes, ma'am. I think too, that would be like personal preference, you know, hoping the next person has those characteristics, and am I restating that correctly? Yeah.
And another thing, you know, if the board president is not doing what the members want him or her to do, you always can change. You don't have to stay in there for a year. I don't think we have to have a policy that they have to stay in there the whole year. If they're not doing what they do. I never know we had a policy that they have to stay in there a year or, something like that. If you're not satisfied with what the president did, vote, 6 votes to get him out of there, get her out of there, that's all it is.
So will we have like a special, call meeting or to?
They put it on the agenda, you want to switch board member, switch, president.
We've been holding back this. I'm just kidding, man.
Well, next month, we get a chance to put a new president in. So, everybody has the opportunity to think about what, and thanks for bringing that up, Ms. Phelps, think about what they want to do and what they want to see, so. Any other questions?
Anything else? Okay. Item number 3 is to consider approving the Natchitoches Parish School Board meeting calendar for the year 2021, and that is in your packet. We'll look over that, and if you've got any problems with any of the dates for our scheduled meetings, we'll be voting on this on Thursday. Are you going?
Yeah, and I'm sorry if y'all have any questions about that, but we do have one member of the community who came to me and also spoke to a board member. So if y'all don't mind suspending our rules, because she has been patiently waiting, and I think her issue is important. And again, she spoke to I believe she spoke to Reverend Harris, and she also spoke to myself about the need to bring this up. So if y'all don't mind, Ms. Morrow.
I'd like to say good afternoon to everybody. I think I know everybody except the superintendent, but I've had an opportunity to meet you, and it's a pleasure. And for the ones in the building that don't know me, I'm Cynthia Morrow. I'm the former city council person for District Number 3, and I'm a long-standing council person. I was there 20 years, and that is long, and the first woman. I'd like to say in our neighborhood, the 400 block of Martin Luther King Drive, we have the old Title I building, which is connected to the old preschool center, which was the old Head Start Center. And I'd like to know what is the future of that particular, those particular sites. I've had an opportunity when Mr. Solomon was here, I met with him. And then I've had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Foshee. I also spoke to Mr. Skinner on several times, and we just didn't get anywhere. And I didn't want to take it and be forceful and bring in the city and ask them to step in to help. So we do have Mr. Wascom, who is the business manager for the school board now. And I'd like for all of you all to look at those buildings. And also we have one adjacent to the old Head Start Center. And I need to know for the group and in the neighborhood, what actually you all gonna do about those sites. And I think you and I discussed who is really the actual owner, to have dual owners. So I first wanna try to see if we can get it cleaned up first. And I wanted to present it to everybody in an intelligent manner. And if you wanna set up a meeting with me and our committee, I can come back, because we're trying to improve the neighborhood. We have Mrs. Harris, who brought the Office of Community Service in the neighborhood, and it really looked nice at the corner of Trudeau. Ms. Claire Promise, she has the Legacy Cafe, and also she has a school, the Ben Johnson Educational School. So we kind of want to clean it up. We have a minister that moved directly across the street from the old Head Start building, so we need to do something in the area of cleanup.
Yes, ma'am. I would love to set up a meeting with you off the books, but if you don't mind, I'd love to, Mr. Wascom, would you give us maybe 2 minutes to explain where we're at with that?
Okay, thank you.
Just to let the board know, the property that she is speaking of, we own pieces of it. We don't own the whole property. It's kind of odd. The main building is owned by, and that's a discussion as to who really owns that, but we own pieces around that building. This is convoluted. And one of the questions I actually would like to ask of this board is, would y'all allow me to hire a local attorney? So we have another issue over here on Parkway that our attorney out of Baton Rouge there's just local dynamics that we sometimes need a local attorney to manage.
And just to give y'all a heads up, we're gonna put this on the agenda Thursday, but most boards do have contact with Hammond, Seals and Guys because they are the education attorneys in the state. But then they also have usually enlist some sort of local attorney for these more contextual issues that it takes someone who knows the city, knows the community to really expedite. And so this would actually probably be a cost-cutting endeavor.
Yes.
Because if we hire a local attorney just for these events, they're gonna do something in half the time and probably for a lower rate than Hammond, Seals and Guys, while still being able to retain Hammond, Seals and Guys for these bigger things we need them for.
Correct, and they also know the local dynamics of personalities in the town to help. We have some issues like we have the property on Parkway. We have to deal with that to finish that parking lot. We have the Clutcheville building, and we have the building she's speaking of. We actually do own full ownership of the other two buildings that's broken. This one's unusual. It's wide open. Sylvia, I don't know if you've been in it. All the mirrors, windows have been broken. It's full of human feces. It's not a pleasant place to be in. It also has asbestos. Asbestos abatement is going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're probably looking close to about $500,000 there. Once you get it abated, then the question, it would actually be a nice storage facility. It has a lot of area where you could do some storage. The question ultimately is, I don't know who owns it, and that's why it's being so badly neglected. Nobody really knows what to do.
I thought that, first part of the year, last year, they came to us and said, we are completely on it. Bessie said they didn't own none of that over there. They told, I thought Mr. Skinner had got, a lawyer to look at it, and they said we owned it to complete the thing, and we voted to demolish, the board voted to demolish the building. And it fell through the, cracks since everything been changing around. That's what we voted to demolish the building.
Is that right?
It was too expensive to do, repair and renovation. We would have to spend out too much money to repair and renovate.
It would take more money to repair what we have than just to tear it down, start over. I mean, I'm telling you, it's in bad shape.
Head Start, we decided to not move forward. Head Start backed out too, if you remember.
Yeah, Head Start, that was.
Yeah, they backed out, and they was supposed to have been getting bids to see what it was gonna cost to demolish it.
So I guess what we could do,
Still gotta do to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
The paperwork I have on my desk is that the ownership was unclear. Are y'all saying that that was figured?
So what we can do is, we can look into this between now and Thursday based on the previous board meetings to see if, it sounds like what y'all are saying is that was all figured out. And we can hopefully update y'all Thursday. And Ms. Morrow, I think, if you get with Ms. Revels, actually after this meeting, we can put something on the books for, a meeting with y'all. But I think to satisfy everyone right now, because we are getting late and this isn't on the agenda, it is on our radar. We're gonna set up a meeting and we're gonna do some research for all of y'all to see what our next steps are, because it needs to be addressed.
If we gotta spend a bunch of money on it or whatever, we need to just go ahead and demolish the thing, cause, you know.
Once again, though, to demolish it, you have to do asbestos abatement.
Yeah.
You have to do asbestos abatement, and then you have to pay bulldozers to remove it. If it was just a bulldozer thing, it's one thing, but it's the asbestos abatements where they have to cover it with poly, go in there with hazmat suits, and this costs a lot of money. Y'all might remember that from the 9th grade center. Same exact process. I don't know what the final numbers were, but very expensive.
Check those numbers, Dr. Elon, we had bids come in and do it. Mr. Foshee had something going on, so we actually, that's the reason Head Start backed out of feasibility, so it's somewhere.
Okay.
Can we donate it to them and, get it all completely out of our hands? We can't donate it, can
We got a legal opinion at one point that we could not.
we? We couldn't donate it,
Cannot
they had to
donate
come with
properties.
it. Yeah.
It's because we don't have full ownership, right?
Right, but not only that, but I think you have to, there's a statute somewhere, I remember talking to.
Yeah, but we couldn't,
To Bob about it, that you have to sell it for the fair market, value, because it
Well, I'll
belongs to
be
the
honest with you,
public.
fair market value is about $150. I mean, it's really, no, the land cleaned would be far more valuable than the building with the land. Because the building is a liability.
And I think that's where the question comes in, is how much land belongs to who? I think that's one of the.
That's all paperwork that I had. So that's one of the things, I really need a local attorney that I can work with, who can go to the circuit court, figure it out, actually get and talk. Because I like resolving the issue with the Parkway property. I'm in communication with Baton Rouge people, but they don't know
what's going on?
They don't know Mr. Whitehead, they don't know what's going on, and they're not talking. And I need to get a local attorney that can go sit down with them and talk, or at least get with them. So I'm asking if I present an attorney at some point, y'all, do I have to get that approved here?
We can do that Thursday, as soon as, I mean, or
That's housekeeping, you can add it to the agenda.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Then if y'all are okay, I'd like Thursday to present an attorney that I would recommend to help us with these real estate matters, so to help Ms. Sylvia, resolve this. I'm, not sure how far we'll get to that, but we'll have to figure out who the owner is.
Do we have to do bids with it, or you can just go ahead and hire somebody, if we agree, you bring one and we agree with it, do we have the ability?
I think it's a special services, like you hire an engineer.
Okay, all right then, that's fine.
We need to find somebody who specializes in the field of it.
Yeah, with land stuff and, with that.
Okay.
Mr. Kegros, your report.
That concludes the executive report.
Does any board member have any questions before we?
Okay.
Right, we will see you Thursday, and everyone, stay safe.
We're done. Okay. Now it's afterwards.
I know, should have knocked on
How you doing, Ron?